Welcome in. We are reliving 1996 from the Buffalo Bandits, their third championship in a very, very still early stage of the franchise's history. It was impressive to say the least, but this club was a little different than the ones that had won in 92 and 93. There was a pretty significant turnover heading into the 96 season, and the group of guys on your screen definitely came together to make it all work. I'm Brian Duff. It's great to have you with us. Troy Cordingley, Jim Veltman, Teddy Dowling, Mike Hazen, Clint Jones, Neil Doddridge, Johnny Meridian, the GM, and somewhere lurking in the weeds is John Tavares. He'll be back. And of course, the in-arena voice that you've heard from the beginning in Bandit Land, Chris Swenson, all with us here. The accolades for so many of these guys, I could go on and on. I'm sure some of them are going to rise to the table here as we dive into the discussions. But Johnny, you were the architect of all of this, and you had success obviously so quickly, first year, and then you run into the 22-game win streak. You win in 93, missed the chance at the three-peat in 94. Philadelphia started taking over again, and then you guys got your licks in on Philly in the championship game in 96. How challenging was it to build this 96 squad that, if the broadcast was accurate, said that there were 11 new players on the team?
Yeah, and you know, I was very fortunate to, you know, be the GM of the 92 and 93 championship team. And it was really interesting because it was like everything was aligned. It was spectacular. And I think what was really interesting about it is if you look at the leadership now in the NLL, you look at guys that are coaching, you look at guys that have contributed at a very high level. You know, we were able to have not only great lacrosse players and great people, we had great coaches. Like, they were all great coaches. So they would coach themselves a lot of the time. Like, you know, we would give, you know, Les and I did a lot of stuff together. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. And then I think what was really interesting about after we, you know, lost to Boston and Buffalo, and there was that big Donnybrook that went on, fights in the stands and everything. And then there was a retooling, you know, going on. And in all honesty, I have to really give a lot of the kudos to our leadership with Les, you know, God bless him, and Jimmy, our captains, and all the guys, the older guys. You know, we still had B Hall, we still had some of that great leadership together, and JT, and, you know, they helped mold that team. And I do know that when you know, Les listens to other players about who they think is good, and they would say, yes, let's get, you know, let's really try and get this player. Let's really try and get this player. And I think it was another magical situation that just happened. But, you know, we always have to talk about the leadership of the players that come together. They deserve a lot of credit for that retooling.
Johnny,
now, it's always
Johnny,
tough
sorry
to
to interrupt you, Johnny.
Yeah.
We were not only coaches, but I think we played a big part in being general managers too, because one of those guys that was fighting in the stands that game, Randy Chrysler, we said we want that guy to coach us, and he eventually coached our team too. So not only were we coaches, but we were GMs too.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's all the part about sport, as we all know, you know, when you're successful, it's the players and the leadership, and if you're unsuccessful, it's the GM and the head coach, right? So I mean,
that's true.
so you're always, when you're hired in that position, you're always hired to be fired. Now, we had a lot of respect, but I'll tell you one thing, guys. You know, for me personally, and I know, you know, JT and Jimmy and everything, like, that was a really forming, storming, and norming time for the NLL. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, you know. The new league starting, the leadership, the Players Association, and it was a really turbulent time. But I'll tell you, the success that came out of that was fantastic.
I didn't know where to spend my $125.
Yeah,
per game.
No, you were up to 200 by then, Jimmy. No, you were 150.
There weren't any secret deals under the table, Johnny.
You don't want to know what they were paying me then.
Don't tell us, Chris.
Chris, you were making more than everybody, I bet, at the time per game.
What do you mean, why?
He was doing weddings.
I was making the popcorn.
You're doing weddings on the side.
I was.
I'd get slammed up against the glass, and I was like, that guy makes more money than me? Guy inside that penalty box?
Don't worry,
That was a nice. Speaking of, that was a nice penalty you drew there when you faked Billy Miller hit you in the chin and you were like looking for blood. Do you remember that hit? Did you watch the game?
I'm always looking for blood.
Like he barely got you. He barely got you, man. You're like holding your chin and looking for
That was at the
blood.
end of the
Oh.
You
second
drew
half.
2-minute minor he got.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Because you couldn't score that game, I had to do something. I had to get us like
I didn't
perfect.
need to score. We were
Oh, my
struggling in the
goodness.
loose ball department, so I had to help you get loose balls.
Billy Miller was the only guy that weighed less than Jimmy Veltman too.
That's why he fell and I didn't that one.
So we were talking earlier, Hazer. How did you get into that Buffalo Bandit? Like after Brock, where did you go? Refresh my memory.
A little perseverance. I think it was my third time trying out for that team.
Mike was the
For
last.
Buffalo.
You were the last cut, right, Mike?
I was the last couple before Dodgy wasn't there. But yeah, it took me a little while.
So how old were you then on that team at that
I
point in
was
time, Hazer?
24 at that time.
Yeah, you were
so-
24.
He was only a
so-
pup.
Yeah.
Just a young guy. That's
And
for
by the
darn
way,
sure.
this
You-
is the most I've ever heard Mike Hazen speak. By the way.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
shut her down.
we heard him
Oh, I-
on our rookie party. Remember when he was barfing? We heard him talking then.
When he left
Or
with
that-
one eyebrow.
or that flight from Philadelphia back to Buffalo. Remember? The Hazer?
Oh, what
Oh, my God.
the drinks bounced off the ceilings, didn't it? Is that the one?
Yeah, everybody's
That was awful.
everybody in their tighty whities. Hey, Troy.
Jesus. It was. I was literally.
That was the worst flight
I
ever.
was
Worst flight of all
scared for
time.
my life. That one. Yeah.
Is that a regular season, in-season flight or a playoff?
No, it was in season. We were flying and we hit
First class.
Hit it.
Yeah.
hit an air pocket.
Chartered plane.
Hit an air pocket, and I remember it was it was so hot. It was like I looked back and JT had his shirt off.
I did.
Sweating his. Oh man, it was. Brutal.
I had a pool of sweat
Yeah.
accumulating
Oh, yeah.
in my belly button. There was a puddle of sweat in my belly button. Now, listen, we didn't get paid very much, but they treated us very well. We not only got to fly in one plane to games, we flew two. We always had connecting flights everywhere.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of
Two
points,
private
so,
jets.
You know, if you want to get to New York, you got to freaking no direct flights to New York from Buffalo.
No.
I could say I was in all these cities.
Exactly. I've been in a lot of airports.
Not to digress, but isn't that why Charlotte was added as a team, because their hub was U.S. Air hub?
Yeah.
Probably.
We're a team in
Two
Charlotte.
flights.
But, yeah.
We
Play
never
out of the
played in
Hangout.
Charlotte. Never played in Charlotte.
No, just they came. to
No.
us.
I think
Well,
the bigger,
You know,
the bigger
that-
story is that Teddy never played in Charlotte. Teddy,
Oh,
Teddy,
see?
Oh.
See?
Teddy, can you remember all the teams you played for?
No, I can't. Yeah,
That's a
there's
Johnny
few,
question.
there's a few.
Whoa.
Well, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Did you not win in your first year in Detroit?
No, that was
No,
me.
no, we lost.
Oh, God,
we got
yeah,
killed in the playoffs. Dodgy
Yeah.
did 92, right?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
91. I was
91,
a rookie.
yep,
Right
yep,
out of,
yep.
right out of
Oh,
junior.
so,
No, Teddy won
The
in.
Gates.
Yep, yep.
He never. Detroit never won again. 91. Buffalo wasn't in the league, and that was when they played the championship game where the city with the highest attendance got the host. So we were in first
Yes.
place, but we had to go to Baltimore,
Right.
and we Ted Swicky
Baltimore
was
had
our
more
goal-
fans than you guys?
that year, yeah. And after the team did not play that home game, I think that killed the market because we were a pretty good team, and that killed the market. And then the next year, the attendance dropped even more in Detroit and
You
Buffalo.
had
We
the
had a- we had
Martinello
an-
brothers?
Yeah, Martin
We had the-
Brothers. So then 93, 94, we had great attendance when we gave tickets away at the border. Come on in, just give the upper bowl. It was capered. It was awesome.
The whole Dowling
bunch.
clan. The whole
Yeah.
Dowling clan. Free
The Wild
tickets.
Bunch. The Wild
Yeah.
Bunch.
Yeah, everybody wanted to see the Dowling Dash.
Okay, I got something funny for you. This is true story. I'm doing my coaching clinic for British Columbia, And in it, they have the plays online, and in it is the Dowling Dash.
No
It's not
way.
even right. I didn't put it in there. I'm like, hey. So I use that as part of my coaching clinic.
Yeah. Well, they had to find a role for you. You could run off the front door and then try and score and then get off really quick.
Well, hold on one second. If you watch that game, which I watched,
You
today
played
for
D.
the
I
first
know you
time in a
played
long
D.
time.
I
I
know.
played defense. Yeah,
You played defense.
I was watching for number 21 out there. He did pretty good on D. I was surprised.
So when did the offense defense start in the NLL, guys?
You started it.
It was that year, was it not? In
No,
90
well,
No.
in '95,
96?
I remember in '95, I never played any defense for Boston. I never touched the defensive floor. So we were doing it then.
Well, Ted,
but
you
it
never played deep in Mississauga either.
Wait a second, Jeff's got videotape. So Morley Kells, everybody remembers Morley Kells, I think. He wasn't in his system, was the offense defensive system. We played that in junior, my last year junior. That's what I remember. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2s and 4s on the left hand side to go off. And then
We did it in Brampton with Les Wakeling in '92.
But we shortened the bench though. Like I think he did that more towards the end of the periods and end of the game.
Right.
But we ran 3 lines: the white line, the blue line, the red line. I was
Right.
on the white line with Pat Coyle and
Jimmy
Jim
V was-
Veltman.
Jimmy Veltman.
Who was on that line? Pat Coyle, myself, you, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Brian
right.
Johnny Fever.
Fever. Remember Fever had the
Who's
the
Johnny
wooden
Fever?
axe. The
Johnny
wooden
Veltman.
axe.
Oh, John Veltman. And who was the other? Who was
He's the other Veltman, the famous Veltman.
So it was 2 Veltmans, Coyle, myself.
Gary Walker.
In Brampton.
Yeah.
Gary
So
Walker.
we ran 3 lines.
Kip Rennick.
The real John Grant.
Yeah, remember Johnny Grant?
That's right. Yes. John without an H.
Yeah.
Hey,
Maradona.
Dodds, that was quite a decade. I'm sorry I misappropriated your first title of that decade, giving it to Teddy. But you won what, 6 Man Cups that decade, or 7, but 6 in a row, right?
Yeah, I was really, really fortunate, to say the least, and played with a lot of these guys on the call all the way through. Like we were in Brampton for 2, and then we were out here for the Man Cup against Coquitlam, and there was something in the Toronto Star saying that there was an ad in the paper to hire a new GM and coach for the Brampton Excelsiors. So all of a sudden, is that true? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. But then
I'll correct it.
Yeah.
You still owe me about $100 from '96.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then the transition from Brampton to Six Nations, a lot of us did that transition. Troy came a bit later, but he was there for the last 2, I think. And then I made a life change and moved out west. Teddy did the same thing.
He saw, you know what Troy saw? He saw you guys coming out of the dressing room with 2 duffel bags. One for your equipment and one for your money. That's what he saw. And then he was gone out of Brampton so fast.
Oh yeah.
I played for the love of the game.
He's like, then I can move to, now I can move to Oakville, he said. Now I can move to Oakville. It's
Jim
perfect.
Veltman. It was a trade. They traded us to Six Nations.
We
I got traded.
We looked pretty good in '94, I tell you. We had a good squad, eh, Troy? It's me, you, and nobody else.
Hey.
Where'd everybody
That was my
go?
first year.
Hey, Hazen was there. Hazen was there.
Oh, hey.
We had this rookie Hazen. We had to teach him every practice.
So then I moved out west, and I've been out west. Actually, we lost in '97 against Rochester with the Bandits.
Yeah.
The next day, I moved from Oakville to Vancouver, and I
Sore
never came
loser.
back. Yeah, we lost to Rochester. We lost.
Was that the game we got killed?
No, we were tied going into the 4th, and Chugger stood on his head, and Paul Gate decided to turn it on. And Paul Gate scored, I think, 3 or 4 in the 4th quarter, and Rochester won the '97 Cup.
And that was after the incident,
What incident?
the flag incident.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's right.
Come on, guys.
Is that why
Don't
Patty
the GM
O'Toole's
of
not
that?
on the call?
Come on, we were sold
Oh,
out.
I remember.
The
I
game before
remember
the-
hearing about. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then we come in the next game. There was basically 5,000 people in the arena or whatever it was, our last
There
game of the
was.
season.
Yeah.
And then in the playoff game, I think we played against New York. We beat them. And then we come in against Rochester. It was sold out again because everybody came up from Rochester for free tickets. Or really cheap.
That incident affected us for about three years,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I believe, 3 or 4
Yep.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to bring it up, or we're just gonna?
We
move
just
on?
did.
Too late.
You can rewind it and delete it. It's up to you guys.
I know talk radio was on fire that week. I remember after that incident, talk radio was going crazy. And yeah, Hazer, you're related to that guy, aren't you?
I am indeed.
You weren't there.
Yeah.
I was in
there that
in
night,
Uganda that year, and I saw it in the Ugandan newspaper.
I think Rush Limbaugh led with it.
He actually said he was Jim Beltman. Actually,
Well, I think what's really interesting, notwithstanding we're on the Buffalo Bandit call here, but Zoom, but the Buffalo Bandit franchise has, in my humble estimation, has been the most resilient franchise, in the NLL, going through peaks and valleys and championships and up and down and everything. And, credit to everybody in that organization that have went through the peaks and valleys, because there was times when there weren't a lot of people in the stands and the team wasn't doing well. And then, there's times when, they rejuvenate and get a good squad and retool everything and then, start winning and the fans come, don't they? JT, you're there now. You see the electricity and probably the peaks and valleys over the years.
You know what? There was one pillar. There's one pillar there that was there the whole time. Wave, Chris.
Chris.
Wave.
Chris, yeah, Chris.
20.
20.
20.
Yeah.
20.
I would say there's been a lot more ups than downs in Buffalo, but yeah, I think in the that incident definitely brought us down for a bit. And I was just thinking, I don't know if you're on the call. I was like, what happened to that team? That 96 team was great. And then we struggled soon after that. I don't know what happened to us, but I watched that game back thinking, oh my God, I don't remember this game because we were so dominant.
Yeah.
I remember 92. I remember 93 because the games were close. I remember 2008, the game was close. I don't remember 96. I watched the game back and it was like watching a game I did not participate in. Well, Jimmy, and I did.
97,
I didn't score.
97, we lost Jimmy, went to Uganda. And then we also, Troy got hurt. Troy got hurt early.
Oh, that's right.
And not that I know he's got a haircut, so it's good. I'm not making his head bigger. And then also we had Billy Callen playing for us. So that was
Billy Callen.
That was
I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong or help us all remember. So someone told us that, and maybe it was the Knox family, maybe it was Russ and Chris, but when the Boston Bruins played in the Old Odd against the Sabres, they used to have the biggest beer sales of every NHL game until the Bandits played and started selling it out. And the beer sales, they ran out of kegs. They couldn't put enough kegs in. So is that a myth or is that reality?
Yeah, I heard that story in Toronto.
Yeah.
Sort of
Accordingly in between periods.
No, that was the Excelsiors. The Excelsiors used to go out and the guys, Bram and everybody used to have a cigarette and a beer in between
Bunch of
periods.
darts.
Yeah, really, eh?
That wasn't just Bram.
Between the
That was like,
period.
that was
Mearns Eye. Where's Mearns
That was
Eye?
Mearns, Randy Mearns.
Beer and a
Motor.
cigarette in between
Johnny
periods.
Belton was one of those guys.
So that was Toronto, Gypsy. I think it was that when
Yeah,
you
I
were
think it
there,
was Toronto.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
No,
they
I
sold
thought
out the.
yeah.
They sold out
It was the
first two
Gardens.
games.
It was Maple Leaf Gardens, Johnny.
Oh, okay.
Probably
That's
helped
why
that
I'm
there was 4
asking. That's why
quarters.
I'm asking. But I did hear that. I did hear that in Buffalo at the time too. So I'm hopefully I can take some sort of.
We probably didn't. We weren't privy to that information because you probably thought we were going to ask for a $5 raise.
Well, no, because you were at you guys.
I
were
was
at-
maxed out at $200.
Yeah, no, Ron Jaros was going to ask for the beer receipts from all the kegs that were brought in the building to see what was sold. You're absolutely right. So we did keep that hush hush, JT.
It was one of the hardest things, Johnny. I had to explain to my friends. It's like, okay, this place is sold out. How much do you make?
I know. It was tough. It was
tough.
You know, it was tough explaining. Absolutely. And I think the other myth that I thought was really interesting that I remember over the years is, you know, when you got to sign a contract, and some of the contracts, like, you know, were like in the early days, if you played 1 year, it was X. If you played the next year, you would get like $25 a raise, or you get every year you made a little bit, like, but
25.
yeah, but even if you played 5 years, you went from 100 to like $220. Like, it wasn't a big windfall. And one of the myths was, okay, the GMs would get rid of people that would get to a certain stage where they'd make like $250, and that was not anything that we were told or, you know, informed what we should do. So I want to debunk that myth.
Well, we do that now.
That happens now, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lot more money than $25, right? Again.
I mean, you're gonna get rid of a guy because he makes $100 more than the next guy.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, we got to cut him.
Shake.
He makes 200. This guy only makes 190.
I know.
You know what? You guys bring up a good point, though.
Get rid of him.
When you think about the money you guys made back then, right? And my question, it begs the question, why did you do it, right? Why did you do it for $1.25, you know, beer money?
Because we didn't play. We never played in front of that many fans in Canada.
Love of the game. We would have played for free, but we wouldn't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Would you guys?
Hold on, Duds. We did.
Yeah, we did play for free.
After you go out to the club,
Right.
after the game, we actually paid money. We actually lost money that weekend. So, you know.
So what Johnny you're referring to is the Gross Misconduct, which was the book about the NHLPA and how it started. And if you remember correctly, we were compared to that, being 6 teams, being owned by a group of owners. And there was that where they would trade players who were making more money or cut them or whatever. So I mean, we were the beginning of this, and I think what are they capping out at 27 now? The rookies are 10,000 in the league, and the players, I don't even know what the top salary is. Johnny Rosa was telling me the other day. You know, we were playing.
I think the top salary nowadays is like 32, 33, 35.
Yeah. I can be a first year teacher. That's good.
Well, Can you guys even imagine, though, when you go back to that, and I know 92 for us and the Bandits was not one of the first years in the league, but honest to God, when they asked me to do that, I was with the Sabres at the time, and they asked me to do the PA for the Bandits. I didn't know what you guys were. I didn't know anything about lacrosse. I didn't know what to do, what not to do. I didn't know anything about the game.
Chris, you should be a referee.
Exactly. Exactly. They said just have fun with it. But I would tell you, I never in my life thought, like the Bandits next year, it's 30 years. Never in my life would have thought this thing would have happened.
Hold on, Chris, are you justifying you got paid more than us? Is that what you're trying to do right now?
I'm actually trying to get a raise for next year. But no, I mean, honest to God, did you ever think it would be what it is today? I mean, I'm not, get to where it is, right?
I tell you, Chris, I'm disappointed it's not bigger than what it is today.
Yeah, I'm with JT on that totally.
Yeah,
Me too.
I agree that our sport should be at a higher level than what it is, and players should be making full-time jobs. The sport is fantastic that it should be, and there's some systemic issues why it shouldn't be. I don't know whether we have all the answers, but it should be full time. When I look at some of the other sports and some of the other games that go on, and people spend a lot of money to watch things that aren't as exciting as a lacrosse game. But you're right, Chris. You're right. 30 years we've survived.
I made the comment when I was playing for Albany, one of my 11 teams. We had ESPN, ESPN, we had Bud Light, we had amazing sponsors, and all of a sudden we had nothing. And we had a commissioner at the time who really did nothing for our league. And And I got in some really hot water about it. He threatened to sue me, called me up. He's like, I'm going to sue you for defamation of character. I was this, I was that. And I'm like, what? It's true. We don't have anything. We're not doing any. There's no more crowd. And so, yeah, we should be bigger than we are. We had a really bad, rough few years where we didn't get any fans, but it's great. It's doing better now. A lot more teams are coming in. So
I don't have the answer, but I think, and I know the commissioner now, Nick, wants to go in a different direction than this, but I think if we move the season closer to the summer, spring, summer, and have us play during that time period and have
less competition,
and have the OLA be like an American Hockey League, like a
farm system.
Farm system. Thank you.
Yeah.
Only because there's no competition on TV. Like it's baseball and field lacrosse. That's why field lacrosse is televised, is because there's nothing else. And he wants to move closer to this past year we started early December, and Chris, you can attest to this. The numbers are down in attendance early December. You got NFL football, you got NBA basketball, you got NHL hockey. I mean, we can't compete with those leagues right now. We have to, we need to grow our own league to compete with them. And I think it would be a nice opportunity to get a TV contract towards the summer months. You might lose attendance because maybe people are away. They don't want to be inside the building. But these places are all air conditioning. It's not like you're going to Brampton Memorial Arena and sweating your balls off.
Yeah.
I think everything even back then, it was the Deuce. It was on the Deuce, wasn't it? You guys said
that was the most popular the league was. When it was on ESPN2, it was the most popular. I had people, hey, I watched your game in Florida. A lot of people were talking lacrosse.
1994, they put it on the Deuce. That was the first year of the Deuce. We were like the prime. It was we were with primetime games, game of the weeks, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
all
then
8 games.
The Toronto Rock Up became popular because they were on TV.
You know what, JT? When we started the Rock, you're absolutely right. We made a commitment, and it was a big hit at the time. But with Bill Waters, he was the assistant to the president of Maple Leaf of the Leafs, and we talked about it, and we said, listen, let's spend it was $25,000 a game to get on TV. We didn't have to pay for the TV time, but the $25,000 was for the production, and it was for the talent. And I think we had the 6 regular season games and then the 2 championship games. I think there was 8 games, and that really helped because once you had that, the sun, we had everything. It was a perfect storm as well, just like the Bandits were in 92 and 93. The Rock was, but TV helped. I remember, I don't want to defray from this, but I remember being in Maple Leaf Gardens in the office when we announced, Joe Bowen was announcing the Toronto Maple Leafs game. And he said, listen, the Toronto Rock are coming. They're playing in this league with the Buffalo Bandits and everything. And he goes, you get tickets, call right now. And he had a picture of the jersey and a stick and a ball. And I'm sitting in the office, and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. Like that was how powerful it was at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know whether people know that story or not, but that is exactly how powerful that TV was.
Well, Chris mentioned.
I'm still trying to figure out how Jimmy ended up with Toronto after coming back from his mission. That's what still pisses me off a little bit.
Future consideration for Ted Dowling.
It was Petty the year before.
but Chris, your story about not knowing much about lacrosse, Joe Bowen knew nothing about lacrosse, and he called the first games, and to hear his voice calling a lacrosse game, and Brian Shanahan as his color commentator, kind of guiding him through it all, that was a huge thing. And not to belittle the beer sales thing, John, that was amazing marketing. I'm sure you're playing dumb about it, but I'm sure you guys didn't sell out of beer. And you didn't sell out the beer the second game. You just said you did to make sure everybody would know that it's a great. And you got to come here. I sold twice. Sold the beer twice.
I guarantee you at the office sold a lot of beer.
Probably helped if it was 4 quarters, so you could get up 3 times and get some more refreshment.
That's right.
Well, this is obviously a gathering of the 96 squad, which was the final year at the Odd. And in fact, your championship win was just, I think, 2 days before the Sabres final game there. And then that was pretty much it for the sporting events in the arena. But the year started out pretty well with all these new faces, 7 wins in a row, and then a little bit of a hiccup towards the end. You ended up 8-2. But it was interesting that the 2 losses that you had were against teams that you would ultimately meet in the playoffs. So I'm wondering just if you guys can think back to that time, and obviously taking on Rochester first in the playoffs and then ultimately Philadelphia, just how confident the group was, given that it was, it had the great start and maybe now was finding it a bit of a challenge.
Well, I can't remember. So
I can't remember either, Duffer, but I watched that game. And
No recollection.
Maybe the fact that we lost. So you're saying we lost to Philadelphia that year?
Yeah.
Last regular season.
Having that loss probably helped us, because if you guys watch that game, every guy that was on that floor was going 110% the entire game. Everybody's fighting for loose balls. Even Troy Cornley got a couple rebounds. Jim Beltman, he didn't score, but man, he got maybe a few loose balls himself.
Who else didn't score that game?
I
I mean, guy's name is JT or something.
No, I got one.
He got one at the end of the game when the game was already won.
No, it was
That's
a big
right.
one. It was a big one.
Yeah, the 15th one.
Listen,
Empty
I
netter.
don't need to score when everybody else is scoring.
Have you seen your game? You need to score.
No, I don't.
Seen the rest of your game?
Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Yes, so I think that loss to Philadelphia, it probably helped us immensely, because every guy was going so hard. You know what? After watching that game, I'm like, man, I need to make our team, our present team in Buffalo, work this hard every moment they're playing. And I mean, the guys do put a lot of effort in, but I just kind of take a step further and going, I think maybe it's the intensity, or maybe it's the aggression, or maybe what you can get away with. Like back then, you can get away with a lot more calls are made nowadays, a lot less fighting. And I kind of miss that part of the game. I kind of miss the physicality and the odd fight. And I think the fans do as well.
You could tackle, you could do things. It was more rugged.
Well,
but you couldn't push. There was some push call almost every time where a guy touched your back, you fell. But then you clothesline a guy and there's no call.
But I would like to see them let more go in terms of penalties. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's make it like, stay away from the headshots. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like guys were literally headhunting back then.
Yeah.
That's why none of us can remember the semifinal.
Myself.
The final.
But like you watch hockey, you watch playoff hockey. I think our league needs to be rough like that, where don't make it so easy to get a penalty. Like, make the call, make it more possession calls than penalties. I think nowadays, like, there's so many penalties. Like, you're getting 8 power plays a game. It's too many power plays.
And power plays in short man are the worst part of lacrosse.
It's boring.
Boring. Terrible.
No,
but if it's a high stick, it's got to be a 5. Like, I don't think there was any 5-minute majors back then.
Well,
but,
we played them. We played Philadelphia the last home game of the regular season, and that was to decide first place, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And Darius Kilgore was suspended that game.
He was suspended, and then he didn't. He only lasted the first half in that championship game as well. And so,
right.
But we talk about the makeup of the team, and being involved in lacrosse, that makeup of that team, as you hear about the podcast now about coming out of Philadelphia, that they had a lot of stars and athletes, but they built their team with golden retrievers. We talked about this kind of offline, but the guys that they brought in, the Mike Hazens, the Tom Ferrers, myself, Ted Dowling, there's 11 new faces. I would say that Les and John brought pit bulls to the party, and we dominated them in that championship game. Like, even the scoring chances, they look at the breakdown of the scoring chances, and Troy, Veltman, all the big guns, like Teddy, you guys were getting to the net, and they were not getting to the net. Like, we were, like, Johnny Nostra and I put out in the first quarter, I think, and it was just a shoulder to the chin, and he
Did you say Veltman?
I put out Billy Miller.
Billy Miller.
Well, he was Billy Miller. Billy Miller was running scared every time. Like, I mean, he was a good player, but you could see it in their eyes. You could see that they were worried.
I also
you guys were made up of just a ton of unselfish players, right?
I agree with that, Chris. We had a lot of team players. The guys moved the ball really well. I agree.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of guys who had a knack for the net. Like, there's a lot of natural goal scorers. Like, you go over that team's list, and like, wow, every guy can put the ball in the net.
And you look at that year's stats, and maybe Duffer's got them. I don't know. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I don't think. I mean, outside of maybe Johnny, from a numbers perspective, everybody else was kind of bunched up, right? I mean, to that point, there was a lot of guys that could do a lot of different things.
Yeah, JT only averaged 8 points a game that year. But after that, Troy was
empty netters.
Yeah.
8 of them a game.
And Troy, you had the hat tricks, and then after that, it was just kind of the balance that we had seen.
Ciccone.
Both the Killers, Richie and Darius, both scored as well.
Dean Ciccone.
Ciccone, yeah.
That year, I recall we played the entire year with a chip on our shoulder. We walked into Baltimore. We beat the crap out of them. Even though Troy didn't take his gloves off, he beat the crap out of Kip Folk.
Was that Sanderson in that year?
I'm not sure, but I could tell you.
Their goalie. We killed them.
Yeah, we killed them, but also we killed them. We beat them. And the thing is, we got letters from the league saying they were going to suspend us. We were reprimanded. I mean, I wish I had those letters. I'd frame them.
You're right. Yeah.
And Les would come in and say, "You guys are going to get me fired, man. Don't get me fired." And we'd be like, and then Darius got suspended that game, and we were all like on the bench, and Chris Lee's doing the, "What do you think of the game?" We're really upset that Darius got suspended. He shouldn't have been suspended. He didn't do anything. We stuck together as a team. We didn't go out on the floor together.
That's right.
We all ran out as a team, instead of individually. So that was a great team year. I mean, as far as I was one of the best teams I've ever played for, by far.
What did Darius do at halftime to get ejected to start the third quarter?
Well, they interviewed Meridian for that. And Johnny, you said there may be some pushing or something?
Les. They interviewed
Les. Was it Les?
On the bench,
yeah. Yeah, it was Les, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone jumped in front of Darius when he was running through the tunnel. Like, how when we came off at the odd, he came at the end behind the nets, and you ran
in chief, Tucker. And
Tucker. I remember going face to face with Tucker. Thanks for reminding me. That was tough.
Yeah, so what he did was Darius was running off. The whole team was running off, but it was like he took the charge. He took the charge like in basketball, like he jumped in front of Darius. Well, Darius is running, and like Darius ran him over apparently. Yeah. But what is he doing there? Like, it's like jumping in front of a subway. Really? Come on, get lost.
There was also some bad blood between Darius. Darius was a warrior, man. He played hard. And
he got set up. He was set up in that situation.
Championship game, how tough he played, and he scared every Philadelphia guy. That was the way Darius played, and he played on the edge, and every one of us loved having him on our team. And then he got
just not in our hotel room.
Some bad blood there, and then Tucker said that Darius purposely went at him, and which was totally false. And then the league said, well, the league gave him Darius a 5-minute penalty, not the referees. The league told the referees it's a 5-minute penalty. So we stood.
That was Mike Mathis. He
said in the dressing room, let's not play. We're not going to play. So the fans are waiting. It's a 12-minute intermission, and we were in there for probably 20, 25 minutes, were we not?
Yeah.
And we just said, we're not playing. We're not playing. And finally, the only reason we went to play is Darius said, fellas, your team, stick together, go out and win it. Like, let's go win. Let's shove it up their ass. And that's basically what we did.
Yeah.
I want to compliment Troy's memory. See what happens when you don't go in the corner? You don't get hit in the head.
If you've never had a concussion, you're okay. Had a concussion,
that
Troy.
Reminds me, our man down that game was unbelievable.
Yeah, because
our man down was really good.
Yeah,
we were pressuring them, and they had Gary at the top. They had Gary at the shooter. They had Gary at the crease, and we kept shutting Gary off and rotating and giving other guys a shot, and they couldn't score. They scored a couple late in the game. Hazer was
Hazer and Fair at the
Hazer
top.
was in the top.
Fair,
Yeah.
and
I was just
Cochran,
chasing
think, was
Tommy
on,
March.
Cochran,
Yeah.
but
Tommy Fair.
our
That guy
man
was
down was
so-
a big difference because
Yeah,
it
you
allowed
almost-
us to
was an
continue to play
incredible
tough
player.
because we weren't giving up any shorthanded goals.
No, and you almost got through that major. I mean, it was actually only a 3-minute kill because you were on the power play to start the
Yeah.
third quarter. But
In the fourth quarter.
you almost got through that, and then but it was only 8-4 when Philadelphia scored late. So now Swenny, it's late in the power play. Swenny, tell me if this might not be the greatest 1 minute in Bandits history. It's 8-4, and then a minute later, it's 12-4.
12-4.
Kilgore, Luke, Ciccone, about a 50-second window to change and basically end.
Sorry, I didn't hear
championship.
Tavares' name in that 4. Oh, that was
I
number
heard-
12. Sorry, 15's coming up.
I heard a
You'll
lot
bring
of
that
guys.
up at the end of the game, eh, JT?
But
There was a lot of
I
guys
didn't
on the
have
third
to
line
score.
I
of guys
didn't
on the
have
third
to
line.
score.
You know,
Oh,
you know
my
what's funny
goodness.
about that? Like these guys, my memory, it's tough too, right? I'm an old
Yeah.
man, I'm probably older than Johnny, but Meridian, I mean, I know
Yeah,
Tavares,
yeah.
I'm a bit older. But you know what's funny about that, Duffer? What I do remember is when I do announce the goals, I think I do remember that repetition of where I kept getting erupted by a goal. So I had to
Oh,
stop,
that's awesome.
go back, and kind of repeat.
You
And I had
should
to
have
do
called
it.
a timeout.
Yeah, no kidding. But I had
Are
to
you
do it in
testifying-
an
are you
exaggerated way.
testifying
So
your
I
pain? You're
do
justifying
vaguely
your pain,
remember
Ken.
that.
That was
goal,
John.
the Jason
that
Luke
was-
goal, that Jason Luke goal, I think
Oh,
it
that
was
was
the third or the
great.
fourth.
Yeah.
I tell you, that I thought the roof was coming off that rink. Like I had never
Yeah.
heard
Hey,
anything
He
louder.
stepped in the crease.
I know
Yes,
he
he
did.
did.
Yeah, right foot.
How fast was he?
I will say
Yeah.
that my recollection before that game was JT talking to Troy Corden and say, "Look, man, we don't have many lefties, so why don't you come over to the right side, play most of the time over here. I don't need to score this game. I'll just score at the end."
See, Jimmy, that's what I'm talking about.
JT, that's not a compliment. When a guy that's right-handed can score more goals than you on your proper side, that's not a compliment.
No. Just coming over to
That's
our
a guy
side to
who's
make more
struggling
room
that
for other
game.
guys. No.
Struggling.
Making room.
Bart told us our lefties are slow tonight. Get over there.
Get over there.
Help him out.
I was like, "What are you doing over here, man? We got 4 guys."
Hey Troy, on those goals, you were shooting far side
I don't know.
on your
what I was
wrong side.
Man.
Yeah, far side, wrong side, and on Dallas, and it
It's
was
the
just
only
like
three ever. It's the only three, according to the god of goaltending. It's the only three
Goaltending.
ever scored on it. He hasn't put it up on Instagram yet either.
No. I had
It's,
5 when I
it's a
played
double
for
negative,
Pittsburgh.
far
I
side,
had
wrong
4
side.
on them. Yeah, I haven't seen those either. Yeah, 4 on them in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I haven't seen those goals either. For Dallas.
HOF, netminder, 35.
Well, the goal pads are a little different these days than they were back then too. They were pretty tiny back
Oh.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there were goal judges.
Yeah.
now the Nets
they were-
were the Nets 4x4s in '96.
They were a little smaller. Yeah. No,
4x4
4x4.
4x4.
Yeah, 4x4. and a
Yeah,
half.
4x4 6, and then
But-
they went to 4x4 9.
What they were 4x4 6. You said.
Yeah.
Then they went
Yeah.
for.
But the
So
goalies
the-
were not inflated yet. I
No.
mean, they were bigger. Like
Well,
Patty
well,
looked
no.
bigger. That was Pat O'Toole's first year for you guys.
Pat was big.
Yeah.
Sal Casio was big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, how many teams were in the league? 6?
Well,
There's two.
Dallas was small though. Dallas
Dallas
kept
was
his stuff
definitely
small.
Chugger
Yeah.
was
Chugger was big. Chugger was big.
He was
Oh,
medium.
shit.
He was medium. He wasn't that big.
wasn't that big.
Beaker was bigger.
Yeah. Chugger got bigger. Chugger got bigger.
Cowie wasn't big though.
No.
But he wasn't. He wasn't.
I was
wide.
amazed. I watched the game and I saw Geary. I couldn't believe how short Geary was. I was shocked. I thought he was a little
Short and
bigger than that.
stocky.
But Cowie was a big goalie.
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah, that kind of hurt him.
Has
too.
anybody watched? I haven't watched the 92 game or the 93 game. Some of you guys watched that recently?
Oh yeah.
No, we
Yeah.
focused on the 96.
Yeah.
Same result.
Yeah.
Same result. Did you guys win?
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny when you
JP's
mention-
backhand goal, 92 in Philly,
Yeah.
brought the crowd Crowd were on their knees after
Johnny,
we
this
scored
is a
that one.
96 game. This is a 96 team.
No, I know. I'm just, you know.
Duff's going to have nothing to talk about when he does the 92 game.
Actually, half the people on here are going to have to leave if we're going to talk about 90.
Yeah, we have 11 new players.
So Duff, is there going to be a 92
You want the full screen to
one, or
yourself,
is this?
Johnny?
I think 92 is going to happen at some point. We've had some issues getting the actual game.
I thought, no, seriously, I thought maybe, in all honesty, I thought maybe I missed the 92, 90. I thought I missed all that.
No,
for some reason.
no.
Oh,
We're working backwards. We've
been working backwards.
Oh, thanks,
Alex
thanks
Elliott
guys.
owns the rights to it.
Well, that helps clarify things. I thought I missed the first. Okay, cool.
I want to do the
feel a lot
93 just to relive a moment for Troy. I can't believe you guys have the nerve to say that he never had a concussion. Troy, there's a moment in that game, like I thought your head was inside the helmet as it went flying 20 feet away. Like it was unbelievable. The violence.
Were you laying on the turf there?
I was trying to draw
Faking it.
Exactly.
Was that when Pat
He's so good at faking it. He faked you, Duffer. And you, Chris, you too. You should know better.
Well, listen, if you're talking about 94, when Troy Cordonley drew the Pat Coyle, the incident, it was a dive by Troy Cordonley. Pat was so upset, he cross-checked the ref.
That was not a dive. That was not a dive.
That was a crazy scene.
That was
That was a crazy scene.
I think both were just like in awe. Like we couldn't believe that just happened. But it was the referee. If you watch the referee, you watch that. Remember that referee? How he dove, like he was puffing and puffing as if he shot. And he, he got pushed, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, don't hit the ref.
I think he only weighed 120.
I know we're talking about everything but the 96 game, so I thought I'd bring this up. I forget who the Boston game, right? Who was the guy that punched the ref? I was there. It was in the odd.
No, that was Pat Coyle from Detroit.
It was Detroit. Okay, Detroit.
Yeah,
I was there. It was like right in front of me. Wildest thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Playoff game. We're down. Detroit was down by 2, maybe.
Oh, 6-6. No, you're 6. It's 6-6. It was 6-6.
Okay, we're tied. Yeah.
Chris, how many games have you missed in Buffalo? Bandit games?
I think I missed 3 total over the 30 years.
All right, good, because I missed 0.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not to go back to the game, but like what we're talking about, but to go back to the game, the 96 game, if the refs tried to even it up. Like after we were up quite a bit at halftime, and Darius had his penalty, phantom penalty, and then it was just really call after call. We're in the box, 5-minute on somebody for grabbing somebody, like that was me, but that was Fox, whoever the ref was at the time, Fox. But yeah, they tried to even it up and make it closer, but we still.
But the owner, the league kind of controlled a lot of that, right? I mean, it's almost like they were storyboarding everything, right?
Yep, that happened a lot.
Well, the league would tell us the score sometimes.
I would be privy to stuff in the box and things that I would hear and see, and I would just be like, "What are we doing?" Because I know I was an employee of the league, at the time, but quite honestly, I was a Bandit guy.
What did you hear? Seriously, like you heard stuff amongst the refs, like talking. Let's call penalties against Buffalo. You heard that?
I mean, there was nothing. It was nothing blatant, but it was things that you could read between the lines that you kind of knew something goofy was happening, right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
You know what?
A lot that year, though. We had a lot of big leads that year against a lot of teams. Like we had a lot of big leads, and in New York, and all of a sudden we'd be on our way to the box.
There's no doubt in my mind that the referees did not like the Bandits, right? For a lot, and I can't put a broad stroke, but there was a lot of that because to Troy's point, right? You guys were tough, you were physical, right? You were in your face. Darius was very physical, so there's no doubt in my mind. But I also tell you too that there's no doubt in my mind that they want to walk off the carpet feeling like they called it even game, right? So they want to try to keep that as close as they can. And I think some of that has to do with just the fans, right? And the interest from a TV perspective is they want to keep it close. They want to keep it interesting.
This is inside information. That's why you got paid more than me, Chris.
Yeah.
And again,
that's pay grade. You're at a whole different pay grade.
Nobody came out and told me anything. It's just a matter of it's just what you see when you're there, right?
Common denominator was Bill Fox.
Yep. I agree.
100%.
I want to know who bought Bill
And-
Fox's Toronto Rock ring.
Oh,
He might be on the call.
Which
He
one?
might be on the call.
Which one?
Hey,
Which
I
one?
don't
He's
care.
got like
I
five
just
of
want to
them.
know who bought him that ring. And you talking
Wow.
about headhunters. That was a bad game. But anyway,
Which hit we
Whatever.
talking about?
Dodgy, show us all your fingers right now. I bet you got a ring on. Come on, show us your fingers. Dodgy, show us your fingers. Come on, where are you? Come on.
He just
Where
put
are
it in his pocket.
They don't fit anymore.
You don't have
it
it?
was a
Listen, come on. Do you have one on?
He had one on. I saw it.
Oh, wait.
That's okay,
The
man.
band. It's all good.
I'm
I got
wearing
two
my-
wedding rings, but I'm down
tell
one
me-
now. I
just
had
tell
two
me-
wedding rings.
Just tell me it's the Bandit ring from '96 that you're wearing.
It's all gold. It's all gold all the time.
Troy designed that ring, by the way.
Were those nice? Were those rings nice?
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
it's as big as Troy's head.
Brian,
It's massive.
this is Brian. This is the '96. After we won, what our game was the last sporting event in the arena because they were pulling the seats out after the game. Like people were taking the chairs out, and then the next night, JT and I went and watched the Goo Goo Dolls and Bush X. They played, and that was the last concert in the arena.
Sponsored by Diubo.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, we snuck in.
We stuck in actually, and then we had the 2-level suite at the Hilton with the spiral staircase. It was an unbelievable weekend.
Wow.
We were the only three. We were the only three that stayed.
Sabres played the Whalers, right? Last game?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Meaningless game, unfortunately, other than the nostalgia of the, last game. But yeah, they were both, it had a fair amount of fisticuffs in that one too. Not surprisingly. And Neil, I'm glad you brought up the high scoring games. You must have been referring to the 53 goals you scored in a 2-week stretch. So you guys won 28-6 and 25-17 in back-to-back weeks. So that was all part of the 7-game win streak to start the year. I'm guessing the one must have been against Charlotte, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at home. And we pounded Baltimore pretty good as well.
But our record, your
But I
record,
think-
your record, your record at
Did you
home
say
that
we
year wasn't that
pounded
good?
in Baltimore or we pounded Baltimore as well?
Well, I have to say one thing about that Charlotte game in Buffalo, because I was sort of trying to help them get off the ground. And Joe Seivel, remember Joe Seivel, their coach, I think he played at NC State. He's getting inducted into the U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Fame this year, apparently. And I remember the team, the poor Charlotte team, mostly U.S. players, getting asses kicked on the scoreboard. And then there was fights too. There were some fights, weren't there? Where
Yeah, there was.
Bandits sort of like just beat up the Charlotte guys, and that was tough for them, obviously. But there was a few fights. There was a few fights. I remember that.
Yeah, I felt real bad.
Yeah, I was going to say that was Patty McCready was starting all those. that
Yeah,
year.
yeah. There was a lot of fights. I remember that game. Yeah.
Who played on that team? Any Canadians or no? Just
Pat
Pat?
McCready.
I think Katanchik. Didn't Katanchik play
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Katanchik
You know what?
played.
Todd did play. Todd did
Yeah.
play. And I'd have to look at the roster. Todd
He did.
play.
Yeah.
But there wasn't many Canadians at all. It was a lot of U.S. guys.
You guys know who your unsung hero was in the '96 championship team?
Mark Cochran.
Dean Ciccone.
He's
Dean
on the
Ciccone.
call.
John
Was it?
Tavares.
Hill.
What was it? Dodgy?
Clint
Hazen.
Jones.
Mike,
Jimmy.
Clint Jones.
Mike Hazen?
Jim Veltman.
Again?
Everybody-
Unsung.
Unsung?
Yeah.
Hazer.
Hazen.
It wasn't Tommy Fair.
I'll go Hazen.
Oh, Mike Hazen. Mike
Oh.
Hazen.
I read it on the internet, so I'm going to believe it's true. So,
Mike Hazen?
yep.
Didn't tell you.
Good
Lots
choice.
of
Oh,
concussing.
yeah. That's why that the
Great-
little shiny
great
thing
player.
behind him has got the award behind it.
Oh yeah.
Great player.
Sun sitting in Brampton.
Got a lot of history on
Yeah, it is.
this call. Mike, obviously, only NLL coach went through it with Rochester. We got a GM who's the only one to still have 5 championships under his name.
Oh,
So,
Gyps.
Well, you know,
Hey, let me
John,
just
you started talking about, we were coaches back then.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys from these 90s Buffalo teams presently or have coached in the NLL. a lot. Like even the guys in the call right here.
Oh,
And if you go through the list,
absolutely.
like Derek Keenan, Hammer,
Yeah.
Dingle, Veltman, help me out. Darius killed.
Darius,
Rich
yeah.
killed.
Richie, yeah. Oh no,
A lot of guys.
A lot of guys.
Jeff Dowling.
Jeff,
Oh, no,
Jeff,
sorry,
Jeff
he was on my
Dowling,
team.
yeah.
Sorry.
Did Jeff play Buffalo?
No.
no, Jeff.
No,
didn't.
last time. He was the last
He
time.
coached. He coached.
No, but if you
Yeah,
if you
twin
look,
brother.
if you look at, you're absolutely right, JT, and I think that was our point, that we were very fortunate to have the leadership within.
You're inviting him over there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that versatility.
I know you like that.
Yeah.
So as a note, I came in from Boston that year. My first year playing with Jimmy Veltman, but obviously I played with John Tavares and Jr. And it was the leadership on the team, as you mentioned, Johnny, was just beyond what you can imagine as a team goes. They won championships, so it was a great experience. You just knew you were gonna win. You knew you were gonna win that year. It was a matter of how big you were gonna win by. It was a great team. It was a great camaraderie with everybody, and I think everybody had a blast. Every game we played, every post game party we had, it was
road
a
trip.
fantastic trip. Yeah, Dodzy. I mean, we all had like just it was surreal, And so I think it was an amazing year and the best, one of the best teams I ever played for.
Yeah, that year we had great leadership, but that feeling of knowing you're going to win, you still got to go out there and work, and that's what we did that year. Because I'm sure the next couple of years we probably thought, yeah, we're going to go win, and we definitely didn't work for it, and we got our ass kicked for a few years. Yeah. Well, so you got to make sure that you're not too overconfident, and you got to make sure you earn every win.
Well, you know what, JT, you're absolutely right, because what happens is you think, well, maybe I don't have to work that hard because the other guys will, and if not everybody's working hard, you have a bunch of social loafers, and 3 guys don't carry their weight. But let me just say one thing.
Like in that championship game, JT.
Yeah,
exactly, Jimmy.
Let me just say one thing.
He's talking about you, eh? He's not saying it, but he's talking about you.
No. I'm just going to say one thing. The 5 championships that I was fortunate to win, and same with Les, God bless him, Jimmy Veltman was the captain of all of those 5 teams.
And
Okay.
Bill
You guys,
Well,
obviously, you guys just gave it to the oldest guy.
Yeah,
I got stripped of my captaincy in '96.
Okay.
I was flying in from Vancouver.
Yeah, I remember.
Right.
Right.
D Hall was the captain in '96.
Yeah, but you were a captain.
I was on the West Coast.
Yeah, remember that.
Right here. right here.
Les Bartley as a coach, I don't think he was my biggest fan, but I think Les was a great guy, and he, when you listen to what he said and talk to people and on the bench, even just those little tidbits he had on the airwaves of talking to people like Dodgy, for example, like, hey man, you're at your best when you're actually digging in for the ball, not just swinging your stick like being an idiot and looking for retribution. Little things like that. I mean, he brought the team together. We had a great team. We knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he brought us all together, and God rest his soul. And
so what's funny is that, I mean, obviously, with him in the beginning parts of it, I mean, I looked at the guy as I thought he was just a great coach. The organization was good with Johnny and the team and everything because he had success, but then he also had success in Toronto, right? So you got to think, I mean, what was it about, Les that I think made him so successful?
I think it was his hair.
His hair.
He had a nice flow. And Les was a very good communicator.
Yeah.
I think he got the most out of everybody. And he had a knack for communicating and making guys feel welcome, and gave him a role and gave him a sense of belong. And the guys worked hard for him.
Yeah.
John.
He had Jim Veltman a lot too.
And he was, Les, God bless him, he was very big in the union and General Motors.
Yeah.
So he spent a lot of time working with people at all levels. Management, he had to go to bat for the players. In the NLL, he helped negotiate a nice deal.
The 125.
Yeah.
You're talking about my salary.
No, but he was able to bring in some common ground all the time in discussions, like you said, JT. And he knew what Les was very good at. He knew what he didn't know. And, and I think that's what good leadership is,
That's a good point, because I remember Les was not actually, I had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah.
I honestly, when he took over from Buff McCready, I was like, who is this guy? He's one of Johnny's buddies. What are they doing? He's not like a big coach. I was that good of a coach.
No, technically kind of coach.
Wasn't. But he listened. He listened to everybody.
He listened to his players.
He made you feel like what you were, saying could contribute to the team. He would bring it in. He would collate like all this information from people. Yeah. And then he'd come up with a plan that everybody could agree with and feel like, hey, I had some input in that plan.
Yeah.
And then you bought in.
For example,
he was good at that.
For example, he came up to me once in practice, a couple of us in practice, said, hey, what do you guys think about putting 2 guys in the middle on the power play?
Yeah.
I'm like, 2 guys in the middle on the power play? Well, no, because then 1 guy can cover 2. Let's not try that.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a very good idea, but he listened.
Like the 2 on, like the pick on the 2-on-1.
Yeah, exactly. Now, truth be told here, I brought this up the other day. What was Les Bartley's record for F-bombs in his pregame speech?
Veltman used to count them.
Yeah.
Veltman would be behind him.
I counted them at 13 one time.
13.
Union. He was a union guy. He was talking to people in the in the factory, going to hard work. Right. I mean, he was talking our language, which I thought was really special about him. And I went to the same. We grew up together, and he was just an amazing guy. And he wasn't a tactician, but he was a good people guy, and he got the best out of all you guys.
You know what's funny about that, Johnny? You say that.
The best out of him too.
I definitely agree with that, because I would just tell you, and I was nobody, right? I was just a butt back there trying to do my thing and survive, and you guys just trying to help and understand it.
Making more money than me, though.
Yeah, I did. He always took the time to come over and talk to me and say hi and thank me for the things that I'm doing. I mean, that went a long way with me. I think that you treat people right. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
JT.
Well, then you're a part of it.
Yeah.
JT, you have to be able to answer this. If we're talking Les Bartley F-bombs in a pregame speech, there's a guy on the screen who I'm thinking might have been
Troy Cordingley.
Troy. And then there's the guy we've talked about before in Darris. So can you please discern the major differences between the 3 when it comes to situations like that?
Troy's +2 in the F-bombs.
I would say Les is the winner on that. I think Les definitely used the F word more than any of the names the guys you were referring to.
In a pregame speech.
In pregame speech. In terms of all I'm talking is pregame, not in game. Yeah. Troy and Darris throw a lot of F-bombs out there. Now for pregame speeches, I'm always afraid that Troy's head's going to blow off because it gets very intense. You can see the veins in his neck popping, and the blood is just rushing to his head, and he's almost looks like he's going to explode. Where Darris is just a natural motivator. He just knows exactly what to say. He just his speeches are unbelievable. He's a great motivator. I don't know that he probably swore a minimal amount of times. I don't remember Darris' speech is full of F-bombs. But I definitely remember Bartley's full of F-bombs.
Darris was my head coach in Washington his rookie year, and it was tone with Darris. Darris was tone, and got the point across, and I really like the way Darris coached, actually. Yeah.
So Hazer, you've won a number of championships at a number of levels, and I've never played for you. I coached you up at Brock. You seem to have that sort of gift as well, where you listen to the players and, you facilitate and, you won 3, you were the only coach that won 3, three-peat in the NLL, for crying out loud. And, Les didn't do that. Tony Rush didn't do that in Philly. And you did it in Rochester. So let's hear about you for a bit. You've done a number of successful coaching positions. Hazer, speak up. How do you do it? And you're a Team Canada coach, for crying out loud. You're the highest level coach on this. JT's going to strive to be you, for crying out loud at some point.
Well, I think a lot of credit goes to all these guys here because, like I say, on this team especially, I was just a young kid.
I looked up to Troy for a long time, and Jimmy as well, playing in Brampton.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mike.
Jesus.
And then JT, my rookie year, juniors, JT's rookie of the year because Mississauga, and some guy that's 4 or 5 years older than me wins rookie of the year in junior A, right? But you know what? It's
all those empty net goals.
Like for me, it's just this is me, right? It is. I don't say much, but I listen. I think I listen to my guys. I like to make sure they're empowered and they buy in, right? I think that's what Les did too. Is for me, anyways. He gave me a role to play, and I just didn't want to let these guys down. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Is okay? This is what you're going to do, and like, you're going to answer to the guys you're put the jersey on with. For me, all I got is words. I can't do anything on the floor anymore, right? So it's up to you guys, and I hopefully I empower my players enough that they're going to continue to do that.
Do you model your coaching style after anybody in particular, or is it like a group, or would you say you gravitate to one more than another?
You know what? It depends on the situation, I think, right? This is the biggest thing. I think my favorite coach is a cross between T and Bobby McMahon. Like, T scared the crap out of me every time he walked into a dressing room and saw him, right? I wanted to perform for him, but Bobby McMahon, Slip always knew what to say, right? He was always the guy that was laid back, and like I say, T would rip you, and Slip would come and say, okay, let's just do it this way, right? And the good and the bad. I don't know. I am what I am, right? Like I say, as Teddy said to me earlier, it's probably the most he's ever heard me speak, and I've played with him for a lot of years too, right? It just is what it is.
Well, it's truly amazing. In this really small group, how many championships all of you have won together as players, coaches, managers, at all levels. It really, like, when we were building this group and I kept seeing these names pop up, I mean, you know, I've been a fan of this game for so long, and it's just like, holy cow, like, this is, and what makes it interesting is everything you guys talked about, how 96 was kind of new for this group to come together and win. So why don't we wrap things up with, we'll go just kind of around the horn here, and everybody can chime in with whatever's their final thought to put a bow on 1996 with the Bandits. Troy?
Well, I mean, I just know that I was on the team since 93, and when we lost in 94 at home, I think it ate away at us for 2 years until we got back to the championship. I remember winning 10-7 against Philadelphia going into the second half, and Paul Geet scoring like 10 goals, 7 goals in the second half, and in our rink, and that I just remember it ate away at us. And then, you know, I think that was what made the team special for the guys that were there in 96, that were there in 93. And then the new blood that came in, like Dodsey and Teddy and guys like that, and Luker, they came in and they were as hungry to prove that they belong. You know, Teddy was in Boston and was phenomenal goal scorer and things like that. And you know, we just gelled really, really well. And you know, I know we were 7-0, and then I think we got to a point where it was good for us to lose those 2 of the last 3 games, because I think we get not too big on ourselves, but we forgot maybe a little bit how to work, because we knew we dominated, and then playoffs we dominated again. So, but you're correct. Like, this is probably the best team that I've ever been in the NLL associated with. You know, so that's just my thoughts on the whole thing. And you know, Johnny and Bart deserve an enormous what's the word I'm looking for? Credit for putting this team together. And you know, I wanted to say that with Bart, he really put a lot of confidence in you. You know, you have a bad game, he'd be right in your ear, you know, making sure you were ready to go next game, and he just gave you tons of confidence. And you know, Johnny did a lot of legwork too. So you know, it was everything fit. It was real good.
Jimmy?
Yeah, for me, I mean, 96 was my last year as a Bandit. I didn't realize it at the time that I wouldn't be a Bandit again until 98 came along. So for me, like I was flying across country, so it was, you know, I was travel weary coming from Vancouver every weekend. But like most guys on here said, like it was, for me, it's just so enjoyable to go to the rink, just to joke around with guys. But when, you know, push came to shove and it was time to get serious, we meant to be able to do that. And to me, that's a sign of a good team, is having fun at winning. And there's, like, I don't care what anybody says, it's like the sport's no fun if you're not winning. But we did both. And to be able to do both and to be able to go through a season, like, I don't think a lot of people that haven't won championships realize it, but when you win a championship together, that's for life. Like, that is something that you will carry together for your whole life. And there's no feeling in the world like, yeah, you can, you know, you can witness the birth of your kids, you can get married, you can, like, anniversaries and this and that, but winning a championship together, setting a goal at the beginning of the year and actually attaining it at the end, there is no feeling like it in the world. And that's, I mean, that's truly amazing.
Ready?
Oh, me? Okay. I'll say that it was the best, one of the best, well, best team we've played for. Also, it kind of reminded me of the Brampton team in '98. Like, compared to the Mann Cup win, but Terry Sanderson basically said to me, he goes, "Do you want to play? We're going to win with or without you. Doesn't matter." So I think we could have interchangeably, we could have taken anybody out of that team and still won, which we did at the end because Tavares really didn't play this game anyways, the championship game. So it was a phenomenal, and again, it comes down to the leadership we had on the team. When I came over from Boston, it was we are a great team. And you want to be part of it, and I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be part of it, and we want to. I'm so happy, proud of that championship we had, and yeah, it was an amazing team.
Mike?
Yeah, for me, like I said, just a young kid coming in and looking up to a bunch of guys, like watching them play for my entire life. And actually, they were talking about the '92 and the '93 teams, and even when Patty Coyle took that penalty, I was in the stands watching all those games. So it was a true honor to be part of this team. And for me, they taught me, this was my first championship, the first anything I've ever won. And they've taught me how to do it. I kind of remember practices were hard. And like, say, going against Darris in practice was a scary thing for me, being a young kid. And playing in the games, it was easy to go after Tommy Marichuk because I knew he wasn't Darris, right? He wasn't going to hurt me back. And it just, having those guys behind you, it empowered you. It made a young kid feel invincible at times. And I know they just made me feel so much. They just made me play my best. And I think that's probably one of my best 3 years is my first couple years being with these guys and being in Buffalo.
And you were a huge reason that Marichuk was a no-show the entire game. I don't think he'd score a goal.
Yeah.
He even come out of the court. He was nowhere.
You were chopping him pretty good there.
Well, there's no rules back then, thank goodness.
He's a phantom player anyways.
JT, it's been well documented that maybe the crowning achievement of '96 wasn't your finest hour, but how do you look at the
You know, it's funny. You know, it's funny. Oh, low power mode here. It's funny because, well, I don't want to talk about me and my game that game, but I thought I played well. I watched the game back. I was so proud. I wanted to show my son that, it's not all about scoring goals. It's about hustle and working hard. And, sometimes you score and sometimes you don't. And when you have a great team, you shouldn't have to rely on one or two guys to score goals. And that team had a lot of guys scoring. And if you watch game back, I don't know, I thought I had a pretty good game. I was happy with my game, personally. But when I think of that team,
I just want to point out that JT was clean shaven at the beginning of this thing.
That was funny. That was good. And I alluded to it earlier in the call, was I didn't realize how good of a team the '96 team was. I think that was the best Bandit team. Like, when I think of '92, I think of '93, great teams. But we barely won. Like, we have to go right to the last minute to win those games like that. We controlled the entire game in '96, and I think that team was definitely one of the best, if not the best team in Banditland. And then it reminds me, '96. we won 3 out of 5 championships from 92 to 96. And then Buffalo had to wait all the way until 2008. So 3 out of the first 5 years you win championships, you think everything's really easy. And the moment you let your guard down, that's when things go to hell.
Yeah.
You can't take anything for granted. So whenever you have a strong team, you're making the championships, you got to capitalize on your opportunities. Because in my opinion, in a 6, 7, 8, 10 team league, you got to win championships, a lot more than we did from 96 all the way to 2008. That was a long time waiting. So, you can't take anything for granted. You got to make sure, and that's what I was talking about earlier. You got to make sure you go out and work for everything.
Great stuff, JT. Neil, I mean, we talked about it earlier. It was a decade of winning for you. It's always interesting to me, how anyone can ever discern from one championship to another, how you feel about them, because the crowning moment is always so special. But what stood out for this 96 team in Buffalo for you?
Well, I had been in Boston previously, just as Ted, and I was part of that Boston team that kind of gave Buffalo trouble, like with the athleticism. But when Les and John, when they showed interest that I come to Buffalo, and I was obviously really close with John and Troy and Darius, we were all played in the summer together. I was really excited. Finally, I got to play in Buffalo. Like, I'd been to enough games and been a part of it to see it. I remember the first practice. I remember like running lines with Jason Luke and going, oh my God, like this specimen of an athlete, and we're going to run on the same line together. And like, I'd have to say that third line with Ciccone, myself, Brian Hall, and Mark Cochran, like that was
a great line.
Like that was a solid line. Like, we wouldn't let anything in, but we also could play up the floor as well. But I mean, we knew our role. Like, I watched the tape. We were running so hard to the bench, so Troy and John and Jimmy can get on, and Teddy. Like, we know what's coming, right? And so we don't have a 10-second shift, but we're coming hard. And I teach my players now, like, line changes are huge, and I think we get kind of lost in that. Like, I think Troy coaches that, and all the guys, like even Mike. I watch Mike's teams with Rochester, and their changes are huge. And I think that's a hidden thing in the game, is line changes. And I think we had Teddy coming out the door, we had John coming out the fast break door, we had Troy coming out the fast break door, and those guys were hungry to be on the door. But the thing is, they knew they would get the ball, because we had guys coming to the bench. But
Travis was coming out the slow door.
He might have been, yeah. But but then a guy like Travis,
fifth guy out the door.
A guy like Travis, like, he scored some huge goals in that in the semi and the final, big goals. And I spoke about it earlier. I think what they added to the '96 team were the pit bulls that were gonna like take care of the Philly Golden Retrievers. Yeah. And like, Teddy's a mean piece of business. I've like grown up with him. Johnny will take your head off if you try and take advantage of him. Like, and you look through the lineup, like Jason Luke had a heart like a lion. Like, Dean Ciccone's in the box like every game I watched in '96 for taking somebody's head off. And it's just we were not fun to play against. And then having the fans and being sold out and the horn and knowing we had the offense, if we just took care of the defense and kept the ball out of our own end, out of our own net, then everything would take care of it. But like, playing against like a player like Tommy Fair and then Mike Hazen, like, that's not fun. I can't see any team going, oh, good, we get to play Buffalo. And I even look at the teams that Mike Hazen coaches now. I think he goes back to that mentality as well, like in series play. And I think that team could play anyway. You want to run, you want to pound, you want to fight, you want to fast break, you want to play. It was really exciting to play there. And I think the fans, after that Jason Luke goal in the third quarter, I was just like, I never heard a sound like that. But it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to play in Buffalo and to play with your friends for life as well. It was great.
Very cool.
Veltman could be intimidating too.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, the architect, what do you got to say for it?
Well, I think a number of things. First of all, I think that on a personal note, I have been very blessed and fortunate to have been involved with players all over this league, from San Jose, everywhere, everywhere. And I think, the toughest part is when you look back on this team that was, I would say, I agree with everybody, this was one of the best teams in the NLL forever, because if JT doesn't contribute, Fennell will score a goal. Like everybody will contribute, and the toughest teams to defend against are teams that can do everything. And so, if you cut off one guy, like if you cut off Marichuk and Gate, what does Philly have at that point in time? And I think that's the lesson
30 seconds.
learned, to build teams. So I'm very fortunate. And I think that from a league standpoint, being a GM over with a number of teams is, the Buffalo Bandits at that point in time were the first team, and I hope I remember this right, where an NHL team and an NLL, the Mill, were actually, joint venture partners at that point in time. And the Philadelphia team were joint venture partners with Spectacor. I don't even know it was Spectacor at the time. So my kudos go to the Knox family and what they did at that point in time, because I remember they gave us total access to go to Sabres games and make us feel really comfortable in that community. And we did get a lot of PR, I suspect, because, the Knox family was really involved. And I think from a league standpoint, what's really cool about it is to see now that whole model is, let's get the NHL teams to, own and operate the NLL franchises, because, that's a really good model. And I know we tried that in San Jose with the Sharks, and we tried it in other markets. And I think that, from a league standpoint, that's a pretty interesting formula. And so the Buffalo Bandits have been that cornerstone. And I think that's why that franchise has been able to go through all those peaks and valleys and everything, because they have that stability. So, notwithstanding all of us on this call, I think we all would agree that the Knox family and what their contribution was to this whole operation and the Bandits in 92, 93, 96, all the way was huge, in getting players to come and getting sponsors and Chris Swenson and all that kind of stuff. So I would just like to, give kudos to them, and also to, acknowledge all the guys on this call and everybody in NHL, in the NLL, and back in BC and Ontario and Saskatchewan that had played in this league, that are giving back to the game, because that's huge. If you don't have the expert coaches, the kids aren't going to learn, and the professional team aren't going to develop to the level that you need to be.
Great to see you again, Johnny. Appreciate you taking the time on the call.
Yeah.
Swenny, the Buffalo what after those 4 goals in a minute, man? There wasn't much left of your voice, I don't think.
Probably not. No, I think I hacked up a lung each game. Real quick, here's what I want to say is that you guys deserve the credit, right? At the end of the day, when I think about going back, and I certainly appreciate today those years more than I did then, and realize how special they were, and how special the teams were, and the players, and the relationship between the city and the players, right?
Yeah.
Blue collar guys like yourself, playing for the fun and love of the game. You guys reciprocal with the fans that felt the same way, right? When you think about all the dollars in sports and you think about the relationships, it was unbelievable. So first off, thank you from a fan perspective, because I think first and foremost, I feel like I represent the fans in a lot of ways. So thank you for that, because a lot of what you guys did helped to make Buffalo a premier destination in not only the Mill but the National Lacrosse League, right? So thank you to that, because you guys you kicked butt, you did great, and quite honestly, from a fan perspective, it was a special time and a special moments. I mean, that building back in the days of the Odd just rocked, and it had everything to do with what you guys did on the floor. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the fans had to show up, but let's be honest. I mean, the fans are only going to show up because of the effort and the game that you put on the field, right? So I guess from my side of it, I'm going to keep it short and just say thank you, man. You guys, lots of fun. Thanks for including me to the small degree in this and also back then. Thanks for making me feel welcome, you know, into what you guys were doing. And I just think it's awesome, man. I think it's awesome. So great job.
Thank you guys for setting a record. That's the longest Zoom call we've had so far.
Is that good or bad?
I'll let what says. So, no, honestly, I think we knew from the moment everybody came on the screen tonight, it was just going to be terrific reminiscing and a lot of poking fun at each other along the way, and that's what good teams do and good groups work through and survive and enjoy. So, gents, thank you very much.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you for putting it together. It's incredible, incredible group of people.
Team. That's a special team that can win with Jim Veltman on it.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys. Good to
Didn't I mute you?
See you guys.
Jeez.
See you guys.